Hi everybody. So it's Valentine's Day 2021 and we wanted to give you a little rundown about the front end rebuild that we've got pretty much done on RamNasty. We want to tell you about the parts that we ordered and kind of how the install went, what we had to go through to get everything installed. So we'll kind of start from this end, work our way over, and let you guys know what we think about everything. The first thing that we wanted to talk about was the new steering gearbox. We bought a Redhead steering gear. Great customer service from that company. I packaged our core up and sent it back, and I had my core refund very promptly. So Redhead was a great company to deal with. As far as install, it installs like any other steering gear. And we haven't had a chance yet to drive this thing on the street, but just getting the fluid bled and going through the motions, it seems to feel really nice. The steering feels good. As far as any problems on the installation, it would have had to do with relocation of the steering gear. So we did move the steering gear from the four-wheel drive location, which is farther forward on the frame. We moved it back to the two-wheel drive location, and that was to accommodate the new steering that we put on here, the crossover. We were shooting for high steer. That didn't quite work out, but we'll get there here in a second. So we did cut and fabricate the existing frame bracket for the steering gear, and we were still able to modify all those to work with the steering gear in the two-wheel drive location. So we still have our frame supports. Any other comments on that situation, Love?
I don't think so, other than all the work that it took to get it hooked up. Obviously we ran into issues with, which won't be the same on every rig, but this already had an aftermarket Bergerson shaft, which has this square oblong end shaft for its U-joint connection, and the other U-joint connection for that Bergerson shaft is an oversized hole with a set screw into it, which is what they had been running. So when we pulled the factory out, moved it back, like she said, modified all that, then we took the old factory slip cover for the factory unit, and I cut it off, cut off the oversized set screw into the Bergerson, welded it together so we have a nice tight fit on the input shaft of the new box, which is actually the exact same as factory. So that all had to be modified to make work, but more secure. Once that was done, then we started on the Skies Offroad kit, which is purely just knuckles.
Reed Racing Knuckles.
Reed Racing Knuckles in a Chevy platform.
Let me try to get a good picture of those.
So it's Reed aftermarket knuckle in a Chevy platform, which is your 80s second gen from the square body, whichever gen it is. But so you get the knuckle, you get the machine plates on top, studs to put it in, you get the 7/8 shank tie rod ends, you get DOM stock for both the tie rod and the drag link. And that's pretty much the extent of the kit. So it all works.
In the sense that it doesn't.
In the sense that it doesn't work very well. So we got everything. I've spent, I don't know, the last couple weekends going through it trying to make everything work. So when this gets moved back, that moves back roughly 3 inches, this box. This is the pitman arm. Now whether that came with
It did come...
The 4-inch lift. No, not the kit. The kit comes with another pitman arm.
Which we did not use.
No, because it was a hair different than this, both in drop and length. This moves back 3 inches, which is to align through this cross member, your new linkage that now is going to go over there instead of from the old location box straight to the left side steer. Now we cross over. The idea being with these plates on top of the knuckles to make them basically a flat top is we could do both crossover and high steer. On this side you only see one, on the other side you see two, which it all bolts up. But this rig has a 4-inch lift, Skyjacker springs that was put on prior to us, 4-inch lift, and what happens is both the drag link and tie rod have enough room to work together in here. But what doesn't is this tie rod end that goes from bottom up. The drag link is running right here. When you turn, when it's about dead center, this contacts the tie rod. Fortunately, it wasn't a deal breaker, because then we just dropped the tie rod back to factory location. It would have been on the Dodge Knuckles, because obviously all the OEM Knuckles have this here just for that. That is the tie rod location. We wanted to put up here, but we were able to achieve crossover. This pitman arm that we already had puts it in a good location for geometry.
Geometrically?
And so yeah, we dropped this back down. As you can see, we're running parallel. It all looks good. I have just enough room in front of the diff cover, which was also a aftermarket Mag Hytec diff cover that was put on. So with those parts, drag link, tie rods, knuckles, plates, you still have to source ball joints. The same ball joint works with the Chrysler knuckle to a Chevy application knuckle, diff, yoke, and knuckle holes, same ball joint fits. Then you also have to go to Chevy brake line because you go to a Chevy caliper, because the factory knuckles for Chrysler have machined for bolts to mount the caliper straight to the knuckle, where the Chevy doesn't. So then we source these from WFO, which are a replicate of Chevy OEM caliper mounts to hold the Chevy calipers that luckily and barely will work with a Dodge rotor, which is important because then you keep your 5 lug, because the Chevy knuckle has a 6-bolt spindle, the same spread and diameter as the Chrysler outers. So Chevy line, Chevy caliper mount, Chevy calipers work with Chrysler rotor, outers, and spindle to allow us to keep all that and run our same 5 lug wheels.
Now let's note here on the WFO Chevy caliper brackets, they came super quick. Shipping was great from their website. Now we did have to kind of beat these into submission a little, I will tell you. The stamping seemed to be just a little bit off, so a little massage with a hammer and they fell right into place. But just be aware of that.
Like I said, all the kits and parts and stuff we sourced all worked, but it took some modification all the way through. This yoke doesn't fit this knuckle when tightened all the way up. That could be easily explained by these differentials were manufactured by Dana, who had several different plants. These automakers sourced them and they shipped them from whatever plant. And if you've done any of this type of stuff, the casting on all this stuff is always a little different depending on year and plant, regardless if it's the same gen. So maybe this works on a different casted yoke, but it didn't on this one on either side. So we had to grind in the inside of this yoke and grind down some of the ear of the knuckle in order to get clearance when it turns through there. So we got that taken care of. This
Talk about our tie rod.
tie rod, because it can no longer be up on top, high steer, because of our clearance issues. When it dropped down to the factory locations, the actual bar stock, the DOM pipe tube, was not long enough. So it had to be cut and sectioned with 4 inches of material sourced elsewhere, and then put back together to span with adjustment both ways once both sides are set to lock at lock.
What are you doing there?
I'm sitting up straight, but I can bend her straight.
Actually, what he's doing is extending the length of our
tie rod.
tie rod because it's not long enough. So we're making a new one.
The drag link did work with just enough. I have about half that same amount in on both ends. So yeah, it takes some modifications of things, just little things like getting the brake lines apart. The clips don't work with the Chevy, so you have to do a little bit of modification there on both the mount and the bracket. But all in all, it does go together if you're willing to modify a few things. This was supposed to be just a simple drop back and bolt up. This pitman arm, nor the one that came with the kit, puts that where it needs to be. This one's closer, so we're able to make it work with this being dropped down. So
Let's see, what else are we forgetting?
these work other than having to bend them back enough to clear this rotor for the new calipers.
Right. For ball joints, we went with Moogs. I ordered them direct from their website. They were here within a few days, so they did super great. As far as the Chevy brake calipers, Chevy brake pads, we sourced those straight from the local Napa parts house. We had them pull calipers and pads for an 85 Chevy K10, which basically matches this reed knuckle application. So for the reed knuckle, 85 Chevy K10 brake calipers and pads, we were able to get them to work with our Dodge rotor. We did put new axle seals in this front diff because they were puking fluid. Once we got that front diff cover off, we did take some time to inspect the gears, check out what we actually had in there. The gear ratio has been changed in this rig. It's 410 gears now. Also, there's an E-locker in this front end that we tested on and rewired, made sure that she was functional, and she is. It's got 30 spline axles in it. We counted those up while we had it pulled apart. Alright, what do we got going on here?
I need to get Well, I don't know, but I did get in here with me. My puller worked, so she's loose. So just a little.
Okay, so we've got a ratchet strap. What do we got?
Well, you gotta have a sacrificer to make the 505 gear puller.
A sacrificial ratchet strap?
Yeah, see how
I do. Okay, you gotta chop her up.
this is the key component.
Ah, yeah.
So that you can fish that down in there. Once you get it fished in there, then it takes, like in this instance, I just strapped it to the cross member, but I have two ratchets to do that.
Right.
Now it loosens her up. So now, maybe we should not have taken that off. Oh.
You know what I think a guy needs is some more shit on the floor. So
This is to catch parts.
Yeah, so you can't roll around
So,
and stuff. Yeah.
You just don't worry about that shit. Here's a math question for you. If I count the gears, how many teeth are on this pinion? Okay? With me? We count, which there's numbers written on it. 43, 2.624. Anyway, if we take that number of teeth and we use mathological process and we count the teeth on that ring gear, that'll give you your gear ratio. So you divide it, I just don't know which way, and it should come up with 4.10. 410. So I'm getting that. So in here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I bet they're 411. Okay, then however many teeth you got there, I'll double check. 11. What do you got?
45.
So if you take
45 divided by 11.
Because what it means is that's the number of rotations per rotation.
Divided by 11. 4.09.
So you got 4 tenths.
So 4 tenths.
Cool. Sweet. Seeing as how factory, she was 354s.
4 tens.
Cool, huh?
Yeah, buddy.
You just counted your own gears.
And
I'm sure there's only like 17 girls in America that can do that.
And I did the math on my own too.
Yeah.
So
well,
like 4
it would have
girls
been really
in
cool
America
if
that
you'd have
can
got it out.
Yeah.
That would have been fucking something special. That'd have blown the fuck up. That'd have been all over fucking Twitter and shit.
Just can't make
Fake news! Fake news!
Just can't make
It
this guy
had been had a
happy.
caption under here. We can't corroborate this video. It may have been edited.
Fact checked. And then I wanted to talk about this diff cover. So this is a Mag Hytec diff cover. Made in America. I got this diff cover, honestly, because it matched the diff cover that's on the back. That's really the only reason that I went this route. But let me tell you something. So these diff covers, they have a drain plug. How cool is that? They have a check plug. They have a dipstick. The dipstick has a magnet on it to attract any fine medical particles. I'm really stoked about that drain plug. So the diff cover looks great. These seal up with an O-ring, not your typical gasket. And the customer service from this company is probably the best I've ever experienced. I needed the front diff cover, and then I needed the new O-ring for the rear diff, because we're going to have to dig into that one too. Once you are a customer of this Mag Hytec company, they send you O-rings for free. No questions asked. So once you buy a diff cover from them, you get seals for the life of that diff cover, I suppose. Those people were super great. Highly recommend them. Can you think of anything else while we're up here giving a rundown?
I think that's it.
Let me see my little cheat sheet here. Oh, we threw new shocks on it.
Yeah, new shocks on
We
all the way around.
Yeah, we threw some new shocks on it while we had it torn apart. They're Skyjacker shocks, so basically just the same shocks that came with the original lift on this thing. I think they were RS 9000s, which is way bigger than a 5000. Okay, so we'll get back to work here, get some tires on her. We're gonna get her turned around in the shop, and we've got wheels and tires ordered. They should be here in a week or so. I'm pretty excited for that video. What else?
On to the next step.
Okay, well, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.